Well, it's time for our mock offseason recap show, and we're about to announce who's getting that free NFL jersey. That and, well, not that and more, but just that on this episode of the Hallis Huddle podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Hallis Huddle podcast. Here are your hosts.
The middle of the 15 to the 20, breaks free of the 25 to the 30, to the outside, 40, midfield, 40, 30 of the coast, 20, 15, Hester 5, touchdown Bears!
What's up, Hallis Huddlers? Huddle up!
Hey.
It's so much easier in person.
Right. No,
Rob, there's always more. There's always more on the Hallis Huddle. It's okay.
That's true. I mean, by the time we start talking about things just kind of pick up. Like, we have a set time that we try to get, and then it just picks up sometimes. But yeah, so the whole point of this episode is to go through our mock off season that we did part 1, part 2, part 3. And we had some hiccups along the way, thanks to a few actual things that took place during the time of starting with part 1. For example, Trey Smith was franchise tagged, and, well, we had him get into free agency despite saying there was a good chance he wasn't going to make it. I will say not very many people were out there saying that. We were, or at least I was. And then roster cuts. The Bears already made 2, right? Like, they gave Gerald Everett and DeMarcus Walker an opportunity to find a team sooner, right? Because now they are free agents. They don't technically have to wait until the deadline or the free agent signing period. So
we thought Everett was a slam dunk, and we put it into our mock off season.
Yeah.
We thought the other slam dunk was Ryan Bates, and apparently they don't think so.
Right.
Or they don't think he needs time to find a new team.
He's got to have something on Cunningham or something. I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know. I think they're just going to hold on to him because, look, they need as many offensive linemen as they can get.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So he could be
until they see our mock off season. Then they'll be like, oh, we're good.
Yes.
What they must think of Ryan Bates is worth way more than $4 million. So maybe in their mind, they're thinking it's a value. But
They traded a 5th-round pick for him.
Yeah.
Samuel Debo just went from the 49ers to the Washington Commanders for a 5th-round pick.
Correct.
Samuel, Debo.
All right. Well, let's get in. We have a ton of slides. Again, we're going to give the giveaway at the end of the episode, so you can either fast forward and find out where it is because I'm not going to give you the time, or you can actually watch, listen, and again, look, we love all the support that we've had over the last couple of weeks. We love all the comments. The 3 of us try to get in there and make as many comments and have that conversation continue. So leave comments out there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Makes the show better, gives us an opportunity to put more content out there as well.
Can I just say one more thing, Rob, before we start? I think it was really fun to go through this process, but at the end of the day, it really just shows that the Bears are going to have some options here, and it's going to be fun to watch it play out. Even after we put out this recap, we're going to do different iterations, so just enjoy and be in those comments because we'd love to hear if you see a different path towards hopefully a successful Bears offseason.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an exercise. We're not predicting anything. We're not insiders. We're not experts. We're just saying if we were going through this are the things that you could be done. And, we tried to make some decisions. But that's all this is. It's a fun exercise to see what's possible.
Yeah, we got, 10 days till the legal tampering period. So we'll get a lot of information very soon. Very soon. So just to recap what we did, part 1, we went through and took the roster. We cut it down, made our decisions on who we wanted to cut, maybe some extensions that we decided to make. If you missed that, you'll find out here what we did. Part 2 was free agency. So that, again, that legal tampering period is right around the window. We went through free agency. We made our signings, went through the salary cap and figured out where we're going to be with that. And then our last one was our most recent mock draft that we did. So like, as Justin alluded to, there's going to be alternative universes, right? So like the MCU, the DC, like they have these different universes that take place, like different Earths in the DC universe. That's going to happen on this show as well.
There's an alternate universe where the Bears have won like 5 or 6 Super Bowls in the last 10 years. It's weird.
I want to find a way to get to that portal.
We're not there though. Yet.
All right, but before we even did these 3 episodes, we did an episode where we all ranked our top 5 needs for the Bears in the offseason. And collectively, we all agreed that right guard, left guard, center, and defensive end are absolutely top 5 needs. And then we all talked about safety and defensive tackle being that other 5th need, and then running back, wide receiver, tight end. So we went through our mock offseason with those needs kind of guiding where we were going to go. As we go through this episode, we'll be able to evaluate how well we did at that.
All right. Well, here's the major cuts, right? We already talked about Gerald Everett. We already talked about DeMarcus Walker. We already talked about Ryan Bates.
Yeah, so obviously Bates was not actually cut, but we are still cutting him in our mock offseason.
Yes. And we have one other big name.
And people are probably wondering, why did Kevin Byard get cut? We'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearly we made a decision based on what was out there and what we were going to do. And then I made the executive decision and cut Dominique Robinson. So
let's just see why. We got a surplus at defensive end by the time we get to the end of this thing. Yeah.
Well, and what's nice though is look, we just saved $22.8 million, right? That put the Chicago Bears at almost $91 million in the salary cap for them to spend, like in free agency. There's plenty of room here to go. We also made the decision to extend Kyler Gordon. Gave him 4 years, $56 million. I think at the time, I mean, obviously nothing has changed that I can think of as far as signings throughout the NFL or extensions that have taken place. But I want to say it made him a top 10 paid corner, but it was like 10th or 11th or 12th, somewhere around there.
I think it was important to get this done before he has a Pro Bowl season in a Dennis Allen defense. So you get him at the right price.
Yeah, he's arguably the best player on defense that we got. And it might have been 11th or 12th in terms of overall cornerback, but I think it's towards the top of the nickelback market.
That's correct. Yes, I was referring to all corners, right? Some of the people that we let walk or decided that they weren't going to come back. Keenan Allen was one of those. I don't foresee him coming back here to Chicago. Coleman Shelton, Larry Borum, and Tevin Jenkins, which is interesting. We need a lot of offensive linemen, but we just let 3 of them go.
Most teams in the league might not consider losing Coleman Shelton and Larry Borum major subtractions, but they played among the most snaps on our offensive line last year, and we're letting them walk. So, kind of a big deal, I guess.
And Tevin Jenkins, I will preface, though, like, we did say we were going to let him walk, test the market, and we were considering him to come back if he wasn't given a decent contract somewhere else.
Well, I would say this. With Trey Smith staying in Kansas City, that means the market at guard is even less than it would be. And so I think some team is going to pay Tevin Jenkins more than the Bears will want to pay him, given his history with injuries. And then just real quick with Keenan Allen, I want to see let's start headed closer to the ceiling of what Rome Odunze can be. And then when you look at what a third receiver option would be, especially with what I believe Ben Johnson will want to run, I don't know that Keenan really fits the bill quite there. So you'll see, but we found ways to get some guys in there that I think will be utilized pretty nicely in that 3rd and 4 receiver options, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4.
Yeah, I think the key words were you got to block to get the rock.
Yep.
And I'm not a big Pro Football Focus grade fan. I love what they do with stats and stuff like that, but their grades I find a little bit meh. That said, Keenan Allen's blocking grade was the absolute worst.
What was Odunze's? Odunze looked like a very willing blocker, just from my eyes. I don't know if you happen to look that up, though.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I just remember seeing them on social media. But DJ Moore was actually the best, even though that was a little bit shocking to me based off of his performance last year, or lack thereof, I should say. And look, he didn't have that bad of a year. He just didn't seem like he was that invested or interested.
On the play where he just walked off the field, the other guy was near him. That might count as a block.
Hey,
he was on the field for more than 2.5 seconds. Is that a run block win?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk additions. I think this is a big one that we'll have to address here, right? Obviously, offensive line, we missed out on Trey Smith. Let's just talk real quick. Drew Dahlman and Kevin Zietler. Drew Dahlman, obviously probably the top center free agent that's going to be potentially hitting the market. We have to keep saying potentially because we don't know if these guys are actually going to hit. But yeah, he's potentially the top guy. Rumored to want between 18 and 20 million. We've talked about this. We're not really into that. We settled on 14 million, which is a bump up from where we were in our original video. I think we only had him at 8.5. And because of the Trey Smith news, and to be honest, I think we thought about also bringing in Kevin Zietler on top of Trey Smith anyway. We decided not to, but now that Trey Smith is an option, we did bring in Zietler on a 1-year deal. He is going to be 35 very soon, so 1 year I think is pretty reasonable.
So to Dahlman, if you look at that contract we put up there, that comes out at an AAV of 14 million. And honestly, he's the best center on the market. He's 25, 26 years old, I want to say. So him coming out and saying, I want top money is the right thing for him to do. I'd be willing to go as high as, 16 if you have to. But what I think the Bears should do is get creative in how they, divvy that up. With him being 26, I know it might not sound popular, but I would actually backload the contract a bit. And knowing that the cap keeps going up, I think TV money is really coming in heavy and the cap is projected to go way, way up. So 16 million a year sounds like, that's a little much. He's not Creed Humphrey. But 16 million 3 years from now or 4 years from now, if it ends up being a 4-year deal, won't seem nearly as bad as what it might look like now. So I think getting a center that's young, that you can just say, this is our guy, is very important. So if they have to slightly overpay, I think they should be willing to do it. Now, if it gets up to 20, that's kind of ridiculous to me. I'd be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. And then I would say as it gets to Zietler, we got 1 year, 9.5 million on there. I'd sign up for that in a heartbeat. I do feel like if the Bears are really going to have a chance there, they might have to win a bidding war with the Lions. So it might take a 2-year contract, maybe just the 2 years at that AAV would be enough. But just something to keep in mind there.
Yeah, and we hinted at Kevin Byard being cut, and there was a reason for it, and it's because we went in and got Javon Holland, probably the top safety free agent in the market. So he would replace Kevin Byard. Look, Kevin Byard had a good bounce back year. He struggled with the Philadelphia Eagles the year before. Shame for him that he wasn't there this year. What it came with, Super Bowl ring. But yeah, he had a good bounce back year here, but he's getting up there in age as well. So getting a younger safety in here, and we don't know what Jaquan Brisker is going to look like. A year and a half now, basically, he's missed over the last 2 years with concussions.
Yeah, it wasn't so much about Byard not being good enough. It was more about there was really Holland was the top of 4 or 5 young safeties, age 24 to 26, who are going to be available in free agency this year. So it was a combination of the opportunity of guys available plus the cap that the Bears had, that there was just kind of a easy path to get better and younger at that position.
And Dennis Allen likes to do a lot with his DBs. You're talking about, do you go with a guy who's 31 or a guy who's 24? I think Javon Holland's a guy hopefully you can build around for years to come. Now, some of you Dallas Huddlers are like, wait a minute, that next name doesn't look familiar.
Well, it looks familiar.
True.
It looks familiar, but it was not in part 2.
It was not.
Offseason. So
it was not. So originally, what was it, Bob?
It was Chase Young. We gave Chase Young, I think, 3 years, 54 million is what we decided on. But this was before the NFL added some extra money on the cap, and I think it ended up being something in the range of 6 million more than what we projected ourselves at the start of episode 1. And so with that, it made more sense to go with a more established veteran who still is performing near the top of the league. Now, he's not winning Defensive Player of the Year awards anymore, but he's, he was top 5, top 6 in pressures last year, still double-digit sack guy. Dennis Allen actually drafted him when Dennis Allen was the head coach over there and for the Raiders, so there's some history there. I think just a lot of things line up to bring Khalil Mack back to Chicago.
Another thing, Khalil Mack is often thought of as just, an amazing pass rusher, which he is, but he's a complete end too. He'll help out in the run game. Sometimes that's questionable with Chase Young. So you're going to have to pay a bit for Mack, and obviously it's a shorter term deal because he's getting up there in age, but he can have a significant impact, and I think he'll make that whole defensive line better.
Yeah, but simply, like you said, a shorter term deal, but we're looking at this Khalil Mack deal very similar to the Kevin Zeitler deal, right? Like he's just going to be kind of a bridge, and then we're going to continue to build the trenches through the draft, and more on that to come. But even with what we did this year in our mock-off draft, our mock draft for this mock-off season, you continue to build through the trenches year after year after year, and I expect more defensive ends to be taken at some point over the next 3 years, right? So hopefully Khalil Mack is just here to help build up the rookies, and then we unleash the rookies as he goes off into the sunset.
That's right. And then these next 6 guys are kind of more second wave free agencies. Like you kind of go through the draft, see what kind of holes you still need to plug, and kind of grab these guys. Jerry Tillery is a great example of that. We didn't really get to address defensive tackle too much in draft, as we'll get to in a second here. So go grab a guy who was a former first-round pick, I believe. Production really had never been there, but he's always kind of a factor on the defensive line. So he's going to be a nice depth piece on the defensive line there.
Yeah, Evan Brown has some history. People might be a little shocked to see that we went Drew Dahlman and Evan Brown because he was the center for the Arizona Cardinals. But he has history playing center and guard in Detroit with Ben Johnson. So if he hits the market, that could play a factor here of him just deciding to come here. Marcus Davenport was just in New Orleans with Dennis Allen. So it's kind of reminds me of the, I'm blanking on his name now. The 3-part name out of defensive end that was in Indianapolis that came here.
Al-Kadeen.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So it kind of reminds me of that. Hopefully a little bit of better production here in Chicago. Kelvin Beacham's just kind of a guy, right? And then Elijah Moore, I think, is going to kind of fit in nicely as a wide receiver 3.
Yes.
Tyler Scott is
Patrick, just kind of round out that receiver core.
Yeah, Tyler Scott, he's not really going to be listed in this probably the only time we're going to talk about him in this mock-off season right now because I brought his name up is he's not shown enough. I don't think he's going to be off the team by any means, but I don't foresee him being, the 3rd or 4th option either.
Yeah, agreed. Want to move on to the...
Yep. All right, just to kind of get a little bit of a recap. So after all these free agent signings, there was still roughly $38 million left. Okay? Again, those numbers that you guys see, that's not necessarily what the cap hit is, right? So a lot of things go into the salary cap as far as, where signing bonuses go, what the roster salary is per game, that type of stuff. Or there's bonuses, ton of stuff goes into it. The draft class is predicted to be around 12.6 million. However, that is not supposed to affect the top 51 because the salary cap number is only for the top 51 players. So that's also something important to notice. That 12.6 number drops to about 8.4, 8.5 million. And so we should have roughly 27, 28, 29 million left in the salary cap to either roll over into 2026, which I'd be perfectly fine with.
Yeah, it's important to make that note. We don't lose that money. It's not use it or lose it. It will get added to whatever space that we have next year.
Yeah. Or, as the season goes on, things could happen. You might need to do something. You might need to make a trade. You might, things happen. You need that money. I love that Ryan Poles photo, by the way. He looks so happy.
Business time. Let's go.
All right. So this was our mock draft. As you can see, there are 2 edges on this draft. there was a lot of pushback in the comments about why didn't you take a defensive tackle? That is part of the reason why Jerry Tillery was added to our list, because look, he needs to be. They need backups, right? You need roster depth. I will say I am very high on Gervon Dexter. The jump that I have seen from him from year 1 to year 2 is fantastic. I'm still a very big fan of Andrew Billings. I don't foresee him having any issues coming back from his torn pectoral muscle. So edge was, again, doubled up. I will admit, had I known that we could get Jack Sawyer where we got him, I would have been okay with Walter Nolan if he was there at 16. I would have been okay with Kenneth Grant, who would have been more of a nose tackle had he been there at 16. Look, if that's where the Chicago Bears want to go, I'd be perfectly okay with it. This is a very deep defensive tackle class, so you could swap out a couple guys here or there if you're that upset about it. But this is just how it fell with the simulator we used. It's how it fell with the rankings that we were using, right? So I have my own rankings. It's not just, ESPN or Daniel Jeremiah or anything like that. And it's not like I just go on and move people around. Like, I actually go and watch film. I am a part of a Discord that actually has all 22 access to college film. So I watch play after play after play. This is not my job. Okay, but I'm going to defend myself a little bit. I do it as much as I can.
So with that, I want to get on my soapbox here a little bit about drafting best player available, right? Like you said, maybe if I would have known what happened later, we would have taken a different player in the first round. No. Michael Williams was the top player on your board, so you take the top player on your board. And then when it gets to that second round pick and Jack Sawyer's there and you have him projected as a double-digit sack guy, you take him. You don't just take a defensive tackle because it's going to make your depth chart look nicer if you don't think he's as good of a prospect. You worry about your depth chart when it's time to worry about your depth chart. The draft is a time to get guys you like. And if you like Jack Sawyer, you see him as an elite pass rusher or very good pass rusher in this league for years to come. You take Jack Sawyer. You love that you're getting 13 and a half sacks a year. And don't even think about that average defensive tackle that you missed on because you just had to make your depth chart look good.
Well, and I think I feel a cough coming on. Give me 1 second here.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, if the debate is that you don't think Jack Sawyer is a great prospect, that's a different debate than just saying we have to take a defensive tackle for the sake of defensive tackle.
When we talked about alternate universes, I think if the Bears do enough in free agency to feel comfortable going to the draft where even at 10 they can take the best player available, talking about Genty, talking about Tyler Warren in some interesting ways. I could see even Warren in a possible slight trade down. But, it's possible they're going to be eyeing some guys like that. And, if you're getting a guy that you think is elite, that's very, very important versus, like you said, Bob, just, we got to fill out the depth chart. You worry about that later.
The only time you're drafting for need is if you got two guys graded equally. And then, fine, let's go for the need. But if you got a guy sitting above everybody else, I don't care what position he's playing, take the best player available.
Yeah, and to that point, too, like, in this case, this wasn't at 10, right? For those of you who maybe didn't watch part 3 of our mock off season, this wasn't at 10. We had traded down. We took Michael Williams at 16. So I would not have taken Michael Williams at 10. I wouldn't have. But getting him at 16 was a great value, and I will stand by that. The guy, some people are going to say, well, he didn't have enough production. Guess what? He had enough production because he played in Georgia, and Georgia doesn't require their defensive ends to just rack up 10-plus sacks. They have to do a lot. In fact, it's very similar to what we're going to see defensive ends for Dennis Allen's system do. You have to contain the edge. You have to stop the run. He's a good run stopper, which this defense struggled with horribly bad last year. Horribly bad. And look, he's your defensive end 3, right? Khalil Mack and Montez Sweat are 1 and 2. So if he can come in and contribute, and he might even be 4 if Austin Booker takes a jump, which I forgot to put Austin Booker on a slide that's coming up.
It's a deep team. And that's another thing to think about, too. We're focused on some of the criticism of our draft. I mean, let's focus on the positive. First 4 picks, all premium first and second round picks, all in the trenches. Okay. Yeah. And then that first pick in the third round, which may or may not be realistic, understood, a legitimate playmaker, bell cow running back. So there's a lot of good things that happen here.
And people questioning would Caleb Johnson fall that far? That's to be seen. This running back class, I mentioned Genty at the top of that class. It's a deep running back class, and so whether it's Caleb Johnson, I don't think Omarion Hampton's falling. He's probably going the other way on people's draft boards. But there are going to be some running backs available at around there that I think the Bears would be happy to complement with Swift.
Somebody will fall, pretty sure.
Yeah, I have 6 running backs projected in the first, second rounds. Like, not projected to go, but like graded out as first or second round draft picks. So it's not likely that 6 running backs are going to go within the first 2 rounds. People are going to fall. So there's going to be someone there, whether it's Caleb Johnson, whether it's, Henderson, whether it's the other kid I'm blanking on his name, started with the J, coming out of Ohio State.
Judkins.
Yeah. Cam Scatabo is another guy that I really like out of Arizona State. So there's going to be guys there. ETN just ran a good 40 time at the combine. So he might move up draft boards. So yeah, there's a lot to be said. There's no mock draft that's going to ever be perfect. I stand by what we did, but there might be another one in the alternate universe coming up. So
hey, Bob, is this the time you want to talk about just what went out of our roster and what came in? I mean,
well, why don't we bring up that next slide? Let's look at the results of everything that we did here.
Yeah.
Okay?
So this is our offensive depth chart, right? It's not the full depth chart, but these are our starters, and then some key backups.
Yeah, so those top 2 rows, I think, is what's really important to take a look at, is that we have a very solid starter in Zietler coming in. We have, a near, in the right season, right team, probably a Pro Bowl center coming in. Very good plug-and-play guard coming in. And then you look at the bottom, Donovan Jackson, another second-round guard coming in. These are all additions that really are very feasible and reasonable. And the only player of any substance or significance that the Bears lost from last year, I would say, was Tevin Jenkins, right? So, we can nitpick about the exact names, how we're going to get it, where we're going to get it, but there is a path here to significantly improve that interior of the offensive line with, just a little bit of effort here and there, convince the right guys to sign and use draft picks the right way. It's part of the reason why, when we're talking about what head coach is going to come here, they're going to talk about how excited they are about this opportunity that the Bears have here, is because these resources that they have are real. The 4 draft picks in the top 3 rounds are real. All the cap space is real. And if it's directed in the right way, now you're looking like a, playoff roster.
Well, coming into the offseason, a lot of people said the Bears need 3 starters on the offensive line, maybe 4 with Braxton Jones. Braxton Jones is going to be in the last year of his deal, and let's see how he performs. He's also coming off an injury. Donovan Jackson, who you mentioned, has experience playing tackle, has experience playing inside. There's some flexibility there. So I like the idea, whether it's Donovan Jackson, whether in a different alternative universe, if it's Will Campbell, a guy that you might play at guard, but with the knowledge that, hey, maybe you try him at left tackle should you decide to move on from Braxton Jones. Just having the flexibility, I think, is going to be crucial. But like you said, the resources, the 4 picks, which we then turned into 5, there's a lot the Bears are going to be able to do. And I like what I see on this chart right here compared to where they were last season.
Yeah, I will say we're going to have to hit the second wave of free agency to find another tight end.
Yeah, that's one thing that kind of got overlooked in all of this, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, we had plans on attacking it in the draft. It just didn't go that way.
We talked about a little bit with DeAndre Swift, but Ben Johnson had a lot of nice things to say about Cole Kmet.
Yes. 80% catch rate, I think, is what he ended up with last year. But yeah, to your point, Justin, too, like Kelvin Beachum is a guy who is a journeyman left tackle. He could fill in for you if you needed to, if Braxton can't go at the beginning of the year. And Donovan Jackson, like you said, they had massive injuries to that offensive line at Ohio State. He struggled his first game. The last 8 games, he didn't let up a sack. He's not projected to be a tackle because of his arm length, but arm length's a little bit overrated at times. So, like you said, if you need to put him in there, give him a shot.
Yeah, and if you had whatever you think of Braxton Jones, he actually grades out as like average starter, which is pretty good. But if he's your worst offensive lineman out of the 5, you probably got a pretty solid offensive line.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the defense. All right.
Yeah, it's the same story that we kind of just talked about on that offensive line, right? We add Khalil Mack, we add Michael Williams, we add Jack Sawyer, we add Jerry Tillery, and really, we lost to Marcus Walker, who was a really strong rotational player, but, you lose just one strong rotational player and you add a premium free agent and 2 premium draft picks on that defensive line. That is upgrading the trenches with the resources that you have.
And like Rob said, add Austin Booker there. We're excited about Austin Booker. It's not like we left him off because we think he's on the fringe of making the roster. We think he can make a step next year, especially getting to play behind a guy like Khalil Mack. So there's depth on this team. The defense, we thought last season was ready to be a significantly good unit. It didn't really go that way in a lot of ways, but when you look at this on paper, that's a defense that could be very formidable. And as you just saw on the slide previous, I think the offense would be headed in the right direction here too.
Yeah, and all these additions that we're talking about, remember, we still had 27 million left over. So again, we're not predicting this. We're not saying this is exactly what's going to happen, but the tools and the resources are there to improve these trenches, improve this team, and just really excited to see what direction Poles and Johnson actually go in.
All right, so that's the recap. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Please leave comments. What are some decisions that we made that maybe you would like to see done differently? You'll see down at the bottom too, our sign-up page for our betting odds site is there. So check that out if you're looking to make some bets. This baseball season is right around the corner. March Madness is right around the corner. So there's some things out there that you can have fun with. But this is now what everyone was waiting for, right? We've seen all these people added to the show.
Tons of new subscribers. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and the commenting of the huddle up, right? Like there was a lot of people who commented on all 3 videos. I had a few that only got it on 2. And then
there's no more giveaway, but feel free to still comment, huddle up, be part of the show. We love it,
Yeah,
catchphrase.
Well, and there was a few that only got 1. And I will say the winner actually only commented on 1 of our 3 videos. So we're going to announce that. At the same time, I'm also going to preface this that I'm going to give him 2 weeks to get in touch with us. I will comment or try my best to get in touch with him. And hopefully things will go as according to plan.
At which point we'll redraw.
Yeah.
At which point we will withdraw. We will redraw. So if I do not hear from this person within 2 weeks, we will do a redraw. So hopefully we will have enough content too, guys, that'll be coming out. So he has plenty of opportunities. It is a he. Sorry for you who are women and listening and missed out already. But well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe it isn't a he because it's a unisex name actually. So let's just say it. All right. So I'm dragging it out. Congratulations to at Sam Jones 3681. Sam Jones 3681.
All right. So Sam has won NFL jersey of their choice.
Yes.
So get in touch with us and we'll get that jersey to you.
Yeah. And as Bob said, whether you won or not, whether you are not a subscriber, but please be a subscriber, there are going to be other giveaways very, very soon. There might even be something that you can see on my set that might be given away.
And we're giving away awesome content. So stay there for that too.
That's always free.
That's right. I got nothing else, guys. You got anything to wrap up? I mean, the combine ended today. There's a lot of people that didn't participate, but I got to go back and watch some of today's stuff. I was at Dave & Buster's for a toddler birthday party, so barely got to see anything that happened in today's events.
We'll save it for more content.
Yeah, we got some stuff planned in the pipeline, so just stay tuned.
All right. Well, then, if that's all you guys got, that's all I got. Until next time, bear down, claws up.